Hey, what's up, guys? Rare Bishop here of the Press A to Listen podcast, and it's a brand new year, so we've got to get the video reviews out for you. The first one is for Funk of Titans. In case you've never heard of this game, hopefully this gameplay and this video review will help you out. It is a sort of a rhythm platformer. It's definitely a platformer. It has rhythm elements to it. I wouldn't necessarily call it a rhythm game, but I can understand people calling it a rhythm platformer. It is available for the Xbox One at the moment for $9. If you're listening to this on the day or the day after it's recorded, it's out on Friday. If you're listening to it after, months later, it is out now on Xbox One for $9. But yeah, it is a rhythm platformer. So the game takes place in kind of a Greek mythology where it kind of ties into music as well. So you start off as this character that you're funk, like your whole music and your whole soul and everything is just funk based. And you have to try to get some of these worlds, which the three worlds are pop, rap, and rock. And you want to defeat the enemies and the bosses, which we'll get into later, in each of these worlds to restore music. Because you don't want any pop, rap, or rock. You just want it to be funk all the way through. And with it being Greek mythology, you have characters like Zeus and Medusa and Hercules and stuff like that in the game that you'll talk to. You'll kind of have some dialogue between them. And those characters themselves are pretty good. The writing on them is pretty funny. There's no voice acting, but I think they convey it pretty well with their writing. And the actual gameplay itself is, like I mentioned earlier, is a platformer. The big downside to a platformer is when you play one of these, you want the jump to be precise. You want it to feel nice. You want it to feel right when you're jumping because, the main aspect of a platformer is jumping. And unfortunately, the jump here in Funk of Titans is it's entirely too heavy. It feels like when you jump, you have a bunch of weights tied to your character, and that's not something you want in a platformer. It also doesn't help the fact that when you're jumping over certain obstacles or you're trying to defeat certain enemies, you have to be right next to them. There's no leeway when it comes to that stuff. You have to be right on top of them, and it doesn't really make any sense when you go to the shop, where there's a shop in the game when you earn the records that you see me collecting in this game. That's your currency. And when you go into the store to buy new weapons, some of the weapons look like they're pretty long. They could add some length to your hits. And that's just not right. It's purely cosmetic. It doesn't actually add any length. You still need to be right on top of them, and that's stuff that's unfortunate because when you play a platformer, like I said, you want it to be precise and you want it to feel tight, and it just feels way too heavy. It just feels like a ton of weights are just on your character's shoulders. Now I mentioned the main goal of the game is to kind of destroy these pop, rap, and rock worlds and restore funk. But when you're actually in each level, there are 3 objectives you need to do. There's one for not getting hit. If you can get hit once, you lose all of your clothes and you're running through the level naked, and that is actually accurate. They use that terms in the game. The other one is collect all the records. So the records are currency, but there's also an objective for each level for collecting all of them. And then there's a thing called the Pegasus, which basically it's a little, one of those stick ponies that people played with when they were a kid or something like that. So instead of using an actual horse, they use one of those. And you collect there's one of those in every level. And when you collect one of those, you get the medal for each mission. But also when you get done with the mission, you'll get an extra level that you will do. Basically, it's a bonus level that gives you the ability to collect more currency and more of the records to buy stuff from the shop and stuff like that. And to get into the shop just a little bit more, they have stuff that, are basically copyrighted, but also they're not copyrighted at the same time. So they have stuff like Stormtrooper helmet, a Batman mask, a lightsaber, and stuff like that will cost currency, which, like I said, are the records you collect in the game. They don't add anything to it. They're purely cosmetic. If you put a mask on, you don't get an extra hit in the game. If you get a lightsaber, you don't get an extra, more length in your hits or anything like that. It's just purely cosmetic and something to add in to be a little fun and quirky. In addition to the 3 objectives that are in every level, those objectives, like I mentioned earlier, they do not change. Every mission has the same ones. But they have a thing called Zeus's Heroic Missions, which will change up as you progress through the game. You get 3 per level. So every time you level up, you get 3 new ones. And they will kind of range from collect 500 records, complete 5 levels naked, and stuff like that. And so they kind of mix it up a little bit, gives you the ability to try different things out. The downside to that, although I like it, I think it does give you the ability to try different stuff out, but the downside to it for me is, like, one of them is defeat 20 enemies with your lightsaber. And it feels like, well, that's cool. It gives you the ability to try out the lightsaber. But like I said, it's cosmetic. Unless you want to just rank up Zeus's Heroic Missions, there's no real need to do that because it doesn't add it. It's not beneficial for you to use it. You don't get extra length. It doesn't kill them in less hits because every enemy can be destroyed in one hit, and it doesn't really do anything. It's like it wants to be an incentive to try stuff out, but there's really no incentive to do it. I did mention in the very beginning of the review that it's kind of rhythm-esque a little bit, where it's not necessarily a rhythm game, but it does have rhythm elements, and that comes into play with the boss encounters. I won't really call them boss battles, but they have boss encounters at the end of each world that you will fight different characters from Greek mythology, and it's similar to, it's not button mashing, but on each side of the screen, one of the button prompts will come up like A, B, X, or Y, and you have to hit them fast enough before they disappear. And each boss that you're fighting, one's pop, one's rock, one's rap, so the music kind of corresponds to that. So it does have a little bit of rhythm elements to it. I just wish it had a little bit more. I was hoping when I first started this game that the records you collect, since they're in a set pattern, that they would kind of go along to a track, like a music track. And unfortunately, they just don't do that. There's a background track playing, but it doesn't really go with each level or anything like that. So that kind of disappointed me a little bit. Maybe that's due to me just wishful thinking more than it is the actual game's fault. One last thing I'll talk about real quick is the overall game. It just feels like a mobile game. Like if you look at the UI and you look at the way the levels are laid out, it feels like it's a game that would fit perfectly on a touch device, a mobile phone or an iPad or an Android tablet or something like that. And I have a feeling that after this releases on Xbox One, that's exactly what's going to happen, because they can kind of do some microtransactions with the store items and stuff like that. Thankfully, there are no microtransactions in the Xbox One version, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it just feels like a very mobile game, and the platforming itself, like I said, the heavy jump and stuff like that, makes the game not a ton of fun to play. I like the concept of the game. I love the concept. Unfortunately, I just don't think the execution is very good. So at $9, I'd have to suggest that you do not pick it up at the moment. Wait for a sale and try for yourself, or watch some more videos if you can find them on YouTube and stuff to overall make your decision. But that's going to do it for this video review of Funk of Titans. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and have a good one.